The screen is black. Then a low voice cuts through the silence. Machiavelli's. Listen to me. Nobody can hold you back. Not fate, not fear, not them. The camera slowly reveals his face in flickering light. They told you to wait your turn. They told you to stay humble. But you were never born to kneel. He leans forward slightly, eyes piercing the viewer. The world only fears those who stop asking for permission. A faint smile crosses his lips. Tonight, I'll teach you how to become untouchable.
Machiavelli walks through a stone corridor, iron chains hanging on the walls. He runs his hand along them and says, "These are not the chains that hold men. The real chains live here." He touches his temple. They told you that kindness makes you noble. No, it makes you predictable. They told you that fear is weakness. No, it's energy waiting to be shaped. He looks at the chains again, then crushes one underfoot. The mind that understands itself cannot be bound. He enters a grand hall filled with chessboards. Pieces made of marble and gold glimmer under the torchlight. Life, he says, is not war. It's a game. But most people never learn the rules. He picks up a pawn and places it beside the king. They obey, you calculate. They react, you adapt. And when they think they've trapped you, he moves the piece quietly. You were already 3 moves ahead. He looks at the camera and smiles. Control isn't domination, it's awareness. A storm rages outside. Machiavelli stands before a window, the lightning revealing his face. "You've been broken before," he says. "But each time you shattered, something inside you learned how to rebuild." He presses his hand to his chest. "They can take your money, your name, your peace, but they can never steal the fire that refuses to die." He turns toward the storm. The world breaks the weak, but it forges the strong. He returns to his desk, candlelight glowing over his notes. He writes the final line and reads it aloud. "Power begins when you stop waiting to be understood." He looks directly at the camera. Don't ask to be accepted. Don't beg to be seen. Just rise, quietly, relentlessly, until they whisper your name with fear and respect. He blows out the candle. Remember, nobody can hold you back, break you, or stop you unless you let them. Machiavelli walks through a silent forest at dawn. Mist covers the ground. He stops and says, "Strength is not muscle, it is awareness. The predator doesn't run faster than the prey, it simply sees first." He looks up through the fog, his expression calm, patient. The weak react, the strong anticipate. And in the space between reaction and awareness, power is born. A raven lands beside him. He nods slightly. "Silence," he whispers, "is the sound of control." He sits alone inside a stone room. A single candle burns beside him. Walls surround him, cold and unbreakable. "This," he says, touching his chest, "is the real fortress. The strong do not depend on walls or armies. They depend on discipline." He closes his eyes briefly. Every time you master emotion, you build a wall. Every time you control anger, you raise a gate. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you build a kingdom no one can invade. He opens his eyes again. And that kingdom is yourself.
Now he stands on a balcony overlooking the city. Below, the streets are loud, merchants shouting, crowds moving. He looks down and says, "The strong are not born different. They are made by choice." He turns toward the camera. "Every time you say no to what weakens you, you rise. Every time you walk away from chaos, you build clarity. Every time you stand alone, you discover who you really are." Wind lifts his robe slightly. He smiles faintly. Strength is not in fighting others. It's in refusing to fight yourself. Machiavelli stands in a hall filled with noise, merchants arguing, guards shouting. He does not speak. Slowly, everyone begins to quiet down. He says softly, "Control does not shout. It waits." He looks around, eyes sharp yet calm. When you stop reacting, you become the one who defines the rhythm. When you remain still, chaos moves around you, but never through you. He walks through the silent hall and adds, "The loudest man controls the crowd for a moment, but the silent man controls the world." He sits at a wooden table, holding several threads between his fingers, thin, invisible lines that glimmer under the candlelight. "Control," he says, "is not about domination, it's about direction." He moves the strings gently, and small wooden figures on the table shift positions. People are guided by fear, love, pride, and hope. Learn to touch those strings, and you move entire empires without raising your hand. He looks at the camera, a faint smirk appearing. Never force, simply guide. Rain pours outside as lightning flashes through a window. Machiavelli stands unmoved, eyes fixed on the storm. "Control begins inside," he says quietly. "Most men try to command others while being slaves to their own impulses." He walks toward the window, places his hand on the glass. The storm outside means nothing if you've mastered the storm within. He turns back to the viewer. "Be the calm no one can shake, and even the storm will kneel." Machiavelli walks through a quiet garden at dusk. He stops beside a withered tree, half dead, half blooming. He touches one branch and says softly, "Everything powerful grows in silence." He looks toward the horizon where the sun is setting. Impatience builds chaos, but patience builds empires. He turns to the viewer. "The fool reacts, the wise waits, because time reveals what emotion hides." In his study, a clock sits on the table, but it has no hands. Machiavelli sits beside it, writing slowly. "Those who chase time lose it," he says. "The strong do not hurry, they prepare." He dips his quill and adds, "Every delay is an opportunity disguised as silence." He looks up, voice firm yet calm. "When you wait long enough, enemies destroy themselves. Patience is not weakness, it's invisible war." A storm fades. The streets of Florence shine under moonlight. Machiavelli stands on a balcony, looking down at the calm after chaos. He whispers, "Those who master waiting, master everything." He folds his hands behind his back, because time is loyal to the disciplined. He looks up toward the night sky, the moonlight outlining his face. "Let others rush. You
Move when the world is tired. He smiles faintly. That's how time learns to serve you. A single torch flickers in a dark hallway. Machiavelli walks toward it slowly, his shadow stretching behind him. Fear, he says, is the oldest teacher and the only honest one. He stops before the flame and watches it tremble. The weak run from fear and call it courage. The wise walk with fear and call it awareness. He turns toward the viewer. Don't kill your fear. Train it until it kneels. He enters a small room where golden bird cages hang from the ceiling. Inside them, not birds, but faint lights flickering like trapped souls. Machiavelli touches one cage and whispers, "This is where most people live, inside their imagination." He looks directly at the camera. Fear doesn't exist in the world. It exists here. He points to his temple. The door is open, yet they never leave. He opens the cage gently, and the light escapes. Freedom begins when you stop guarding your own prison. A storm brews again outside. Machiavelli stands before an open window, rain on his face, eyes closed. "You can't erase fear," he says. "You must make it serve you." He raises his hand slightly. Lightning flashes across the sky. "The world fears storms, but I learn to use their energy." He opens his eyes and speaks firmly. "The mind that embraces fear becomes untouchable." He turns away, his voice fading. "Because when fear obeys you, nothing else can break you." Machiavelli stands before a mirror, his reflection crowned in light, though his head is bare. He smiles faintly. "Power isn't given," he says. "It's projected." He steps closer. "If you carry yourself as if you need permission, you will always be ruled. But if you move as if you already belong, the world adjusts." He leans in, whispering, "The strongest throne is invisible, and it sits in the mind." He walks through a crowded square. People whisper, watching him pass. He doesn't speak, he simply exists with certainty. "The crowd does not see you," he says calmly. "They see what you make them feel." He stops near a fountain and turns to the camera. "Power is emotional architecture. Build it and they will believe it's real." He adjusts his gloves. Never argue to prove strength, just become the evidence. In his study, he places two masks on the table, one smiling, one stern. He says softly, "The secret of power is not truth, it's perception." He picks up the smiling mask. Show them warmth, and they trust. Then he holds the stern mask. Show them fear, and they obey. He looks up at the camera. The wise man wears both, because to rule reality, you must first rule illusion. He sets the masks down and blows out the candle. Machiavelli walks through a crowded market. People shout, argue, laugh, and fight, their chaos blending into one sound. He moves slowly, untouched, eyes calm and distant. "The weak," he says, "fear silence. They fill it with noise so they never hear their own thoughts." He stops, looking straight ahead. "The powerful retreat not to hide, but to see clearly." He leaves the crowd behind him. The noise fades. He enters an empty library lit only by moonlight. Dust dances in the air as he runs his hand along the books. Isolation is not loneliness, he says softly. It's construction. He sits at a desk and writes, "In solitude, I meet the only mind I can truly command, my own." He closes the book gently and looks at the viewer. Every great empire was built first inside a quiet mind.
Machiavelli stands atop a tower overlooking the city at night. Below him, lights flicker, but up here, only silence. He says, "Distance reveals truth. When you step back, you see the game for what it is." He folds his hands behind his back, wind brushing his robe. The crowd loses itself in emotion. The ruler hides himself in silence. He looks directly at the camera. In a world that cannot stop talking, the one who listens rules.
A silent room. Machiavelli stands before a mirror cracked from past storms. He looks at his reflection and says, "All my enemies tried to break me, but they only taught me who I am." He runs his fingers along the cracks. The mind does not shatter under pressure. It transforms. He lifts his gaze, eyes calm and sharp. Once you win the battle inside, no outside war can touch you.
A single candle burns in front of him. He leans forward, the flame reflected in his eyes. They tried to silence me. They tried to bury me. But a mind that has seen truth cannot die. He gestures to the flame. This fire, it's not strength, it's awareness. He blows lightly. The flame bends, but doesn't die. He smiles. The unbreakable mind doesn't fight storms, it becomes the storm.
Machiavelli stands atop a tower overlooking the city at night. Below him, lights flicker, but up here, only silence. He says, "Distance reveals truth. When you step back, you see the game for what it is." He folds his hands behind his back, wind brushing his robe. The crowd loses itself in emotion. The ruler hides himself in silence. He looks directly at the camera. In a world that cannot stop talking, the one who listens rules.